Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you try to please others, there are always people who seem to drain your energy? Have you wondered why some relationships, instead of lifting you up, plunge you into a sea of doubt and exhaustion? You're not alone, and what you're experiencing is no coincidence. Today, we're going to explore one of the deepest truths that Carl Jung, the brilliant psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, discovered after decades of studying the human mind. When you truly learn to love yourself, when you choose to honor your essence above all else, something magical happens. People who don't resonate with your light naturally begin to distance themselves from your life. Think about it for a moment. When was the last time you looked in the mirror and asked yourself if you're living the life you truly desire? Not the one your parents expected, not the one your partner or friends consider right, but the one that makes your soul vibrate. This question may seem simple, but Jung knew that within it lies the secret to a fulfilling existence. The world we live in is designed to keep us distracted, trapped in routines and expectations that we rarely question. From an early age, we're taught to prioritize external approval, to sacrifice our desires in the name of what we should do. And in this process, something fundamental is lost: our connection to the self. Jung discovered this in his patients over and over again. Those who lived disconnected from their inner truth inevitably manifested this disconnection in the form of anxiety, depression, or toxic relationships. It's no coincidence. As he himself wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." What Jung understood, and what modern society still struggles to accept, is that every time we choose to ignore our inner voice to please others, we're creating a fracture in our psyche. And these fractures, over time, attract exactly the kind of people and situations that reflect our wounds. Stop for a second. Think about that person who constantly makes you feel less, who criticizes your decisions, or who subtly undermines your confidence. What do all these difficult relationships have in common? The answer, according to Jung, is found within you, not them. I'm not saying you're to blame for attracting negative people into your life. What I'm sharing, based on Jung's profound work, is that the people we allow into our inner circle are a reflection of our relationship with ourselves. Jung called it the shadow, those parts of ourselves that we repress, deny, or fear. When we don't acknowledge our shadow, when we pretend it doesn't exist, the universe, in its infinite wisdom, sends us people who embody it. Not to punish us, but to show us what we need to heal. Imagine this. You grew up in a home where expressing your emotions was seen as weakness. Over time, you learn to repress your sensitivity, to pretend nothing affects you. Jung would say you've sent that sensitive part of yourself into the shadow. And what happens then? You attract people who constantly invalidate your feelings, who tell you you're too sensitive or that you're overreacting. It's not magic or coincidence. It's the unconscious working to integrate you, to show you what you've denied in yourself. Jung explained it perfectly. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But here comes the transformation. When you begin to recognize these dynamics, when you start choosing yourself and honoring every part of your being, even those you've kept in the shadow, something extraordinary happens. People who used to drain you begin to feel uncomfortable in your presence. Why? Because you're no longer playing the same game. You're no longer seeking their approval. You're no longer willing to sacrifice your truth to maintain superficial harmony. And for those who only related to you from a place of control or manipulation, this new version of you is disconcerting. Jung observed this phenomenon in his clinical practice. When his patients began to individuate, the term he used to describe the process of becoming who we truly are, they inevitably experienced changes in their relationships. Some strengthened, becoming more authentic and profound. Others simply dissolved. This process can be painful. Choosing yourself sometimes means losing people you thought would be with you forever. It means facing the fear of rejection, loneliness, the unknown. But Jung reminds us, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Think of your energy as a light. When you decide to shine authentically, without diminishing your intensity, so others feel comfortable, you naturally attract those who love and appreciate that light. And those who prefer darkness, who feed on insecurity and fear, simply cannot remain in your presence. You don't need to confront them. You don't need to explain why they no longer fit into your life. The simple act of honoring yourself, of establishing healthy boundaries, and expressing your truth, creates an energetic field that naturally repels what isn't aligned with your essence. Jung expressed it beautifully when he said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." When you raise your standards, when you begin to treat yourself with the love and respect you deserve, the universe responds by bringing people who share those same values. Let me share 5 signs that Jung would identify as evidence that you're beginning to choose yourself. First, you experience less guilt when setting boundaries. You no longer feel like you need to constantly justify yourself or apologize for prioritizing your well-being. Second, your relationships become more reciprocal. It's no longer always you who gives, who listens, who understands. There's a healthy balance of giving and receiving. Third, you find it easier to say no without feeling anxious. You recognize that your time and energy are valuable, and you consciously protect them. Fourth, you notice greater synchronicity in your life. Jung firmly believed in this phenomenon, those meaningful coincidences that occur when you're aligned with your purpose. And fifth, you increasingly surround yourself with people who celebrate your achievements instead of minimizing them, who propel you forward instead of competing with you, who see you completely instead of projecting their own insecurities. But the path to this level of self-knowledge and self-love is not always simple. Jung warned us, there is no birth of consciousness without pain. Choosing yourself means facing uncomfortable truths, admitting where you've allowed others to cross your boundaries, recognizing where you've betrayed your own integrity. This process requires courage. It requires the willingness to look directly at your shadows, those parts of you that you've denied or repressed. Because, as Jung discovered, what we don't consciously integrate, we unconsciously project. Think about that relationship that you know doesn't nourish you, but that you cling to out of fear of being alone. Or that job that drains your creativity, but that you keep for financial security. Or those friends who subtly belittle you, but whom you keep because they've always been there. Jung would invite us to ask ourselves, what part of ourselves are we denying by allowing these situations in our lives? What limiting belief are we holding that makes us think we don't deserve better? Because that's the fundamental truth. What we tolerate is what we perpetuate. And every time we allow behaviors or situations that don't honor our essence, we're sending a powerful message to the universe and to ourselves about what we believe we deserve. The process of individuation that Jung described isn't about becoming someone else. It's about shedding all the layers that aren't you. It's about reconnecting with that pure essence that has always been there, waiting to be rediscovered. And when you begin this journey, something beautiful happens. Not only do toxic relationships begin to naturally dissolve, but you start to attract people who reflect the authenticity you now cultivate in yourself. Jung expressed it perfectly. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. The relationships you now attract won't be about dependence or control, but about mutual growth, about seeing and being seen in your totality. Think of that friend who tells you the truth, even when it's difficult to hear, but always from a place of love. Or that partner who celebrates your independence instead of feeling threatened by it. Or that mentor who recognizes your potential and challenges you to expand beyond your self-imposed limits. These are the relationships that Jung would consider truly nourishing, those that help us become our most complete, most integrated, most authentic version. But to attract these connections, we must first be willing to let go of what no longer serves us. And this can be terrifying. After all, the familiar, even when painful, is at least known. The new, however promising, brings uncertainty. Jung understood this fear. As he wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." The fear, sadness, even anger that arises when we begin to establish healthy boundaries. All these emotions are a natural part of the process. Let me tell you something that perhaps no one has told you before. It's okay if some people walk away when you begin to honor yourself. It's okay if some relationships don't survive your growth. As Jung noted, I cannot be what I ought to be while I still try to be what everyone expects me to be. Every time you rise, every time you expand your consciousness, you naturally leave behind certain patterns, and with them the people who are tied to those patterns. It's not personal, it's evolution. Imagine you're a tree. With each new stage of growth, some leaves must fall to make room for new shoots. The same happens with relationships. Some people are meant to be leaves, present for a season, offering their beauty, and then making space for something new. Jung didn't see this as a loss, but as a necessity for our spiritual development. The majority of my patients, he wrote, do not suffer from a clinically defined neurosis, but from the meaninglessness and emptiness of their lives. And that meaning, that purpose, can only be discovered when we dare to listen to our inner voice, when we stop seeking external validation and begin the journey to our center. This is the heart of Jung's message. Self-love is not selfishness. It is, in fact, the most altruistic act we can perform. Because only when we truly love ourselves, when we honor every part of our being, can we offer authentic love to others. Think of it this way. If your cup is empty, how can you offer water to the thirsty? If you're exhausted by draining relationships, how can you be present for those who truly value you? Jung understood that self-love is the foundation upon which all healthy relationships are built. Without it, we inevitably fall into patterns of codependency, manipulation, or abandonment disguised as sacrifice. But with a solid foundation of self-knowledge and self-acceptance, our relationships transform. We no longer seek in others what we feel we lack. We no longer project our shadows onto those around us. Instead, we relate from fullness, from authenticity, from love. And when we do, something extraordinary happens. Those who previously seemed like dark people, those individuals who drained us, who criticized us, who made us doubt ourselves, simply cannot maintain their influence over us. It's not that they become invisible. It's that our inner light becomes so bright that their shadows can no longer touch us. As Jung taught, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This process of illumination, of integrating our shadows, naturally repels those who feel threatened by our authenticity, and simultaneously attracts those who resonate with our truth, who celebrate our light instead of trying to extinguish it. Don't underestimate the power of this transformation. Jung spent decades studying how our inner world is reflected in our external circumstances, and he came to an irrefutable conclusion. What you resist persists. What you accept transforms you. When you deny your worth, when you repress your needs, when you ignore your boundaries, you subject yourself to relationships that reflect that denial. But when you accept every part of yourself, when you honor your truth, even when it's uncomfortable, when you choose yourself again and again, you transform. And with that transformation, your entire world changes. People who used to treat you as secondary begin to respect you. Situations that once seemed inevitable reveal new possibilities. Limitations you thought were immutable dissolve before your eyes. Jung expressed it beautifully. I am what I chose to be. This simple phrase contains immense power. It reminds us that, at every moment, we have the ability to choose again, to decide who we are, what we allow, and with whom we share our energy. You're not trapped in any pattern, no matter how old. You're not condemned to relationships that don't nourish you, no matter how familiar. You have the power to choose, to transform, to grow. And every time you choose to honor yourself, every time you establish a healthy boundary, every time you express your truth, you're igniting a bit more of that inner light that naturally drives away what isn't aligned with your essence. Let me share 3 concrete practices that Jung would recommend to strengthen your self-love and, by extension, illuminate and clear the dark energies from your life. First, Reflective writing. Jung firmly believed in the power of externalizing our thoughts. Take time each day to write without filter, allowing your true feelings about the relationships in your life to emerge. Ask yourself, which relationships make me feel expansive, and which contract me? Where do I feel valued, and where do I feel used? Second, active meditation. Unlike passive meditation where we try to silence the mind, Jung promoted a form of meditation where we consciously dialogue with the different parts of ourselves. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and ask your intuition, what do I need to release to be more true to myself? Which relationships are draining my energy right now? Third, symbolic action. Jung understood the power of rituals to communicate with our unconscious. Create a simple ritual that symbolizes the release of relationships or patterns that no longer serve you. It could be as simple as writing on a piece of paper the names of people or situations you wish to release, and then burning it with the conscious intention of creating space for relationships that honor your essence. These practices, performed consistently, begin to reprogram your unconscious. You start to recognize more quickly when someone is crossing your boundaries. You begin to instinctively feel which relationships nourish you and which drain you. And most importantly, you begin to act accordingly, not from resentment or defense, but from a deep understanding of your own value. Jung knew it well. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. It is this awakening, this inner clarity, that naturally dissipates the fog of confusing, manipulative, or exhausting relationships that may have dominated your life until now. But remember, this awakening is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process, a daily commitment to yourself. There will be days when the light seems dim, when the voices of doubt are louder than your intuition. And that's okay. Jung reminds us, I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. Each day is a new opportunity to choose again, to reaffirm your commitment to your truth, to honor your essence above external expectations. And every time you do, your inner light strengthens. It becomes more stable, more resilient, less susceptible to being influenced by the dark energies that may try to invade it. Jung spent his life studying the connection between our inner world and the outer one. And he came to a revolutionary conclusion. We don't change the world by changing others. We change the world by changing ourselves. When you stop tolerating the intolerable, when you stop accepting the unacceptable, when you begin to live from the conviction of your own worth, the universe responds. People who cannot honor you naturally move away. Situations that don't serve you naturally dissolve. And in their place, you begin to attract exactly the kind of relationships, opportunities, and experiences that reflect the light you now consciously cultivate within yourself. This is the true power of self-love. It's not vanity or narcissism. It's recognizing and honoring the divine spark that exists within each of us. It's treating that sacred core with the respect and reverence it deserves. And when you do this consistently, something extraordinary happens. You no longer need to fight against negative energies. You don't need to constantly defend yourself. You don't need to explain or justify yourself. Your light, by its mere presence, naturally clears away the darkness. As Jung said, one of the main functions of organized religion is to protect people against a direct experience of God. Substituting religion for any system of limiting beliefs we've adopted, we understand the depth of this statement. We've been conditioned to keep ourselves small, to doubt our power, to tolerate what actually harms us. But this conditioning only works as long as we remain unconscious of it. Once we awaken, once we clearly see the patterns that have kept us trapped, we naturally begin to free ourselves. And with that liberation comes one of the most profound experiences we can have. That of being truly ourselves, without apologies, without compromises, without masks. Jung expressed it magnificently. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Every time you try to be someone you're not to please others, every time you repress your truth to fit in, every time you ignore your intuition to keep the peace, you're paying that high price. You're draining your vital energy. But when you choose to be authentic, when you allow your unique personality to shine without restrictions, you experience a release of energy that can completely transform your existence. The dark people, those who previously seemed to have so much power over you, suddenly seem small compared to the immensity of your authentic self. Their criticisms lose weight, their manipulations lose effectiveness, their projections no longer find a place to land, not because you've built armor against them, but because you've built something much more powerful. An unbreakable relationship with yourself, based on the knowledge and acceptance of who you truly are. This is the gift Jung wanted for each of us. Not a life free of challenges, but a life lived from authenticity, from integrity, from the fullness of our being. And when you live this way, when you fully inhabit the light of your truth, you naturally inspire others to do the same. Not through sermons or impositions, but through the living example of what is possible when you choose to honor yourself above all else. As Jung wisely observed, know all the theories, master all the techniques, but as you touch a human soul, be just another human soul. This self-knowledge, this deep acceptance of all parts of you, the luminous and the shadowy, the strong and the vulnerable, those the world celebrates and those the world rejects, is the true path to freedom. A freedom that no one can give you and that no one can take away. A freedom that is born from the courage to face your own shadows and from the wisdom to integrate them into the totality of who you are. And when you live from this inner freedom, you no longer need to fight against the dark people in your life. Your light, simply by being what it is, naturally illuminates them or clears them from your path. This is the message that Jung dedicated his life to sharing, and that I share with you today. Your self-love, consciously cultivated and courageously expressed, is the most transformative force that exists. It not only transforms your life, but it creates ripples that affect everyone around you. Some of those ripples will push away what doesn't resonate with your new frequency. Others will attract exactly what your soul has been yearning for. And in that process, in that cosmic dance of attraction and repulsion, your life gradually reconfigures itself to reflect the light you've decided to be. Isn't that the very definition of magic? Not an external magic of spells and potions, but the inner magic of the human being who is awake, conscious, and aligned with their deepest truth. As Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. This is your privilege, your birthright, your true purpose. And when you fully claim it, when you dare to become who you truly are, with all your contradictions, your imperfections, your wounds, and your gifts, you discover that the darkness that once seemed to lurk around you simply cannot exist in the presence of your light. Not because you fought it or eliminated it, but because you've chosen to shine so intensely that it naturally dissipates, like the shadows of night before the dawn. This is the transformative power of self-love that Jung discovered through decades of deep investigation of the human soul. And this is the power that is waiting to be awakened within you, here and now. The choice, as always, is yours. Will you dare to claim it? If this message has resonated with you, if you feel that spark of recognition in your heart, I invite you to share it with someone who might need it. Sometimes, the words we hear at just the right moment can be the light that guides our path in times of darkness. Let me know in the comments which part of this message touched your soul. What relationship in your life needs to be reevaluated in light of what you've discovered today? What step, however small, can you take today to choose yourself? Your experience is not only valuable to me, but to this entire community of seekers who, like you, are traveling the path toward a more authentic and fulfilling life. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future videos that, like this one, are designed to awaken your inner wisdom and remind you of your infinite potential. Remember, your self-love is not just a gift to yourself, but to the entire world. When you honor yourself, you elevate the frequency of everything around you. And in a world that often seems shrouded in shadows, there is no more revolutionary act than choosing to shine with all the intensity of your authentic self. Thank you for being here, for listening, and above all, for having the courage to embark on this journey toward your truth. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, remember that life truly begins when you decide to choose yourself above everything else.